Hare Krishna. Thank you all for gathering. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for any latecomers, maybe 2 minutes, because we have a very important topic to discuss. I'm looking at everyone's smiling faces. Okay, I think we've waited long enough, given some grace to the latecomers. Let's begin. We have a very crucial subject to discuss due to the pressing nature of the times and circumstances that we live in. Many of you know that if you go back to 2008, during the time of the Great Recession, so many surveys and studies were done showing that those coming of age, university graduates in their 20s, early 30s at that time, had a very reduced future compared to previous generations of Americans. Their economic opportunities were reduced. Their confidence was lower. So that was 2008. Now we've proceeded into the coronavirus day and age. And many of you know that currently 1 out of every 4 Americans has filed for unemployment benefits. So I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Some of you may have experienced the hit in 2008 in terms of the fading away of guaranteed opportunity. Now, here we are again, 2020, and the circumstances have added to the burden of credit card debt, loan debts for college, how does someone in your shoes look at the world based on the current situation? I've been thinking about that. Do you get depressed? Do you live in denial? No, everything will be all right. Do you work harder? Do you work less? Do you just try to blot out of your mind the crises and just try to squeeze out of the present moment whatever you can? You might be surprised to know that human beings in crisis situations, desperate situations around the world, often do just that, what I said. They don't know what problems tomorrow will bring. And they know their problems yesterday that they're not aware of. But if they can just have a few enjoyable moments now, they resign themselves to thinking it doesn't get any better than that. That's the way it is. So there you all are in California, which was, still is, approximately the 7th biggest economy in the world. But what happened to opportunity? So many young persons your age are delaying making major decisions in life, marriage, or they can't think about buying a house because housing is so unaffordable. The education debts are pressing. So you could be just pushed into thinking, the heck with it. Just get it while you can, and who knows? You're aware more than previous generations of, on the one hand, you've got climate change. That was bad enough. It's caused by what we can call intergenerational tyranny. That the old folks, they're thinking, well, why should we be so concerned about the environment 30 years from now, 50 years from now? We're not going to be around. And anyway, the young people will figure something out. They'll figure something out. Every generation figures something out. So that's called intergenerational tyranny. So on the one hand, you've got the climate change. On the other hand, you still have the threat of nuclear weapons, though everyone's forgotten about it. And then roaring down the middle, in between these two things, you've got the coronavirus. An intelligent person wants to be aware of what's happening around him or her. How do I position myself? You see, my generation, back in the 60s and 70s, was very focused on the Vietnam War, civil rights, and then the first Earth Day came about back then. Women's rights really took off back then. So you had some issues you could really focus on back in the late 60s and early 70s. But the issues that you all are dealing with in your prime are stupendous. Like, how do you get your head around dangers that affect the whole planet? Whether climate change or pandemics, you've got to do some heavy lifting. So therefore, naturally we would wonder, putting myself in your shoes, we'd wonder, what is my relation to all this commotion going on? Externally in the world, that's affecting me internally. This reminds me of my last days at the university. I had dedicated myself for 4 years of intensive study to finding a solution to all the world's problems. Many of you know the story, how my academic advisors at Yale allowed me to study whatever I wanted because I told them, I've got to find a solution. I've got to find the knowledge that will get to the root of all humanity's problems. So my academic advisors at Yale told me, you know, this is exactly what the university is meant for. And we wish that we would have pursued the same avenue when we were students, but we didn't have the guts to do it. So you please have our blessings. You go ahead and just search the university for all it's worth and find whatever value you want to find. And we'll put it together into some kind of concentration, some kind of major. Don't worry about that. And then the last thing they told me was, if you happen to find the solution to all the world's problems, come back and tell us. In other words, you're not going to find it. So I tried my best. I studied economics, anthropology, philosophy of the self, political science of revolutions, history of this, psychology of that, history of science, history of technology. Believe it or not, there was no IT back then. So somehow or other we were living without IT. How is it possible? Most students, I would have to say, back then were of that same mindset to varying degrees. They wanted to solve the problems of human civilization. So back then, even at a place like Yale, if you were studying engineering, if you were studying business administration, you were considered weird. How times have changed, right? Like, engineer, what kind of nerd are you? Business administration, come on, you capitalist swine. Well, that's the way it was back then. Surveys have shown that during that time, late 60s, early 70s, 70% of the students in the USA, the university students, had as their #1 priority to find the meaning of life. And only 30% said their #1 priority was to make money. Guess what's happened in the decades since then? It's flipped. 70% say #1 goal, make money. 30% say find the meaning of life. But now, that was BC, that was before Corona. So now we have the great fortune of living in the years of AC, after Corona. And once again, we have incentive to start thinking, what is the purpose of my life? What is my place in existence? I was talking to one university student in Philadelphia at Temple University. She's studying international relations. She was supposed to come to New Zealand to do her last term as a foreign exchange student, but because of the virus situation, she couldn't do that. So she told me how she was trying to figure out the world, what to do. This is BC, before Corona. And the university academic staff sent her to a psychiatrist. The university staff was thinking, the psychiatric department must have some kind of pharmaceutical, some kind of drugs that will sort you out. So the psychiatrist told her, you've got existential dread. You have the dread of just not knowing what life is about, not knowing what's the best way to live. And we're sorry to tell you, but we've got no drugs that take care of that. So my question is, how are we all going to live differently? Is the present situation an opportunity? Is it a wake-up call? Or should we just get angry that why, during my prime time, have all the opportunities collapsed? Why to me? This reminds me, this potential response reminds me of when I'm in South Africa, for example, speaking. And the university students in Johannesburg or Cape Town, they often tell me, why do you people in the first world countries expect us to tone down and reduce our environmental impact? You've done it all. You've had your fun. You've exploited resources. And now, just when we show up at the party, you say the party is over. It's not fair. It's our turn to burn. If the party is finished, we'll start an after party, but let's get something going. And how dare you first worlders just try to shut us down because the world is ecologically screwed up. If anyone should cut back, it's you guys. And let us have our turn, our day in the sun. So maybe as a generation, you can feel that way. The jobs are drying up. I know the statistics for the USA. 1/3 of college graduates have to accept a job that doesn't require a college degree. And then another batch more have to accept a job that, okay, requires a college degree, but has nothing to do with what they studied in school. Should we get depressed about this? We should certainly be practical about it, but why not use this crisis as an opportunity to explore other possibilities for our life? And the fact is that those who know how to have mental and physical discipline and who can develop fondness for living simply, those persons will be at an advantage. But if we have our material desires, to use bhakti yoga lingo, our material desires, the inner consumer in us, if that is still intact, we're in for some pain. We're in for some frustration. We're in for some anger. This is a time in which our inner self can come to the fore, our inner possibilities. Certainly, we want everyone to survive. Everyone has a right to that. But we want to see how, indeed, as one economist from Stanford said, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. In other words, there's no doubt the present situation is very pressing, but we can use it. Bhakti Yoga gives you the knowledge of how to use these material circumstances for the greatest gain. Because otherwise, if the spiritual lifestyle only works during prosperity, if it only works during when the good times are rolling, what's the use? If a spiritual path is genuine, it's got to nourish you, sustain you, and expand you even during reversals. And right now, we're certainly, materially speaking, in a reversal. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, gave an example that an expert business person is one who knows how to make a profit, not only when the price is going up, but also when the price is going down. So he gave it as an example of a bhakti yogi. He or she knows how to use any situation, victories, defeats, moving forward, being set back, any situation to increase the spiritual wealth. So I'm appealing to you all that these are the times for developing and increasing those kind of dividends. Yes, you've got to do what you got to do to maintain yourself materially. At the same time, we have to reduce our material expectations. And we shouldn't be depressed about that, because it's a great time to increase the spiritual appetite if we know what we're doing. I had some snippets I wanted to relate to you all. From the Bhakti Yoga science. We're dealing with a false attractiveness of the temporary material body, the temporary material mind, and the temporary material world. We're being bound by this temporary, illusory attractiveness. As I often explain, everyone's attracted to something. You can't live without being attracted. So you have to analyze, what is the quality of what you're being attracted to? Because the yogis will explain to you that material existence means we're being victimized by false attractiveness. So you might say, well, what do you mean false attractiveness? I know what's good. When I see something good, I know all about it. When I feel something good, there's no doubt about it. But the genuine yogis and meditators want to analyze that attractiveness. Is it really substantial in terms of quality and quantity? Otherwise, think of the example of the mirage in the desert. It's a common example, but do we think about it deeply? The mirage is a reflection of sunlight on the desert sand. It looks just like water. It looks like, especially to a thirsty person, there's no doubt about this. This is what I need. So the thirsty animal or the human being, bewildered, chases after the mirage, thinking, I will be satisfied. Similarly, we're running after a mirage, thinking, I'll get peace, I'll get happiness. So the yogis ask the question, how many lifetimes does this have to happen? Again and again, chasing after false attractiveness. So the Bhakti Yoga system is all about a lifestyle that diverts your focus, diverts your attention to the high quality experience, indeed, the topmost quality experience, because you want to be attracted. You don't want a life without attractiveness. But we're hung up on the very flickering attractiveness of a mirage. And we don't know any better. So, hey, why not? Even someone can tell you, and you'll agree, it's a mirage. Yeah, I know, it's all illusion, but gotta do something, you know? What do you expect me to do? Be a monk? That's what I thought in my during my student years. All right, I've studied everything. I figured it all out, that no one knows what they're doing. Human beings just make the same mistakes again and again. I learned the mantra. My last year at Yale, I learned the mantra. There's only one thing that human beings learn by studying history. And that is, no one learns anything by studying history. They make the same mistake again and again. So by my final month there, I'd had it. I went to see my dean of studies, and I just told him. I was dressed in the attire of those years, you know, kind of a satin shirt with fringe coming off the sleeves, you know. Of course, bell-bottom pants, couldn't live without them. Big hairstyle. I see David Darshan laughing. So I went to see my dean, and I just told him point blank, I don't see any future for myself in society as it is, materialistic society. I don't see any future for myself. He just looked at me straight without flinching, and he said, "You are a Yale man. You will influence the world." And that was that. Maybe he was right in a way he never expected. Of course, we're talking about the Krishna influence, the unlimitedly attractive Krishna. A life without attractiveness can't be lived. You commit suicide if there's not one iota of attractiveness in your life. So really, the yogis point out to you that your life is about a quest for satisfying attraction. You want to attract others, and you want others to attract you, other things to be attractive to you. So what is the ultimate source of all attractiveness? That is the confidential Krishna knowledge at the top rung of the yoga ladder. All right, so we've talked about chasing after a mirage, thinking, I'll find peace, I'll find happiness. And we've talked about how we need to divert our attention. The times we're in now are very favorable for allowing us to see the realities of material existence. These times are actually advantageous. We can feel pushed to get to the bottom of the issues of existence. We don't need existential dread. We need existential knowledge and a lifestyle that gives us the genuine wealth. Circumstances like we have today push us to understand what is really the advancement of civilization, what is really progress. Have human beings developed their finer spiritual instincts? Or has something else happened? Are people educated and advanced on the path of detachment from illusion and attachment to that unlimitedly attractive ultimate source? Are they getting that kind of support? Just like governments have Better Business Bureau to inspire upcoming entrepreneurs. Similarly, why can't the government inspire upcoming transcendentalists? Oh, we hear that you are trying to develop the finer spiritual instincts. We're so proud to have citizens like you. Instead, we're pushed to be consumers. And that means dissatisfaction. So many of us are living based on a myth. Enjoy yourself at this moment. That's the main thing. If you can help a few others around you to feel good at the same time, oh, that's fine. If you can do a little good for the world, fine. But make sure you are fulfilled. Make sure you are having your wants fulfilled. But now, COVID-19 has put us all on notice. We might have been thinking, and I used to live in Southern California. I know the California dream. Of course, that dream is everywhere in the world, but California has its, Southern California especially, has its specialness in terms of the dream. I often explain to audiences that if you want to have a spiritual lifestyle, a genuine spiritual lifestyle, and if you want to develop some kind of detachment from illusion and attachment to that ultimate source, there's some difficult places in the world for doing that. Now, I don't want you all to pack up your bags and start moving. We're just discussing the realities of material existence. So number four, fourth ranked place where it's difficult to sustain your spiritual development, I would say, is Southern California, because of this omnipresent dream. Number three, I don't know if you've ever been. Number three is the East Coast of Australia. Many of you know I'm based in New Zealand and Australia, so I know all about it. You've got beach towns with names like Surfer's Paradise, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast. Number two, maybe some of you have been to, is Rio de Janeiro. And number one, by far, Hawaii. You see, environment does affect human beings. That's my point. Not that you should pack up your bags and move, which you can't do anyway. But my point is that the environment around you affects you. When things seem to be going good in terms of indulgence, satisfaction, prosperity, it's human nature to generally forget about your spiritual necessities. And then when crunch time comes, then we start wondering, what's going on? What's it all about? So again, we can take that statement, that mantra from the Stanford economist. I think he's at NYU now, Paul Romer. A crisis is a terrible thing to waste. We can capitalize personally on this present situation. So we can see as suspicious many of our previous aspirations and goals. Here are some typical enjoyment mantras, which we might have clung to in normal times. But now we're dealing with, as you know, the new normal. So listen to some of them. I've written them down. The test of true enjoyment is the remembrance that it leaves behind. What do you think? Yeah. Sounds kind of good, doesn't it? I see some heads nodding. Yeah. Yeah. The test of true enjoyment is the remembrance that it leaves behind. But where did the enjoyment go? That's what I always wanted to know. Why does it have to go? Why am I left with just a memory, with just a remembrance? I want to get my hands on stuff that sticks around. So what do you mean the test of true enjoyment is remembrance it leaves behind? What kind of lifestyle will bring about satisfaction that doesn't disappear? Let me try for that. And even if I don't get it, this is what I was thinking when I was in my early 20s. Even if I don't get it, there's nothing else better to try for. So, yes, I went the political route, because back then, all the students were protesting something. Vietnam, civil rights, this, that, the other. So I remember I was part of a big student group at Yale. And student groups, as I said, then always meant that they were protesting something and wanted to change something. Things they were wanting to change certainly were laudable. So I went to a big organizational meeting, because at that time Yale was all men. It changed co-ed the next year. So they were having a special weekend for discussing a massive overhaul of the American economic and political system. And they were going to have seminars and workshops, and they were inviting students from all the neighboring elitist schools. And so they planned the whole weekend. Remember, there were about 100 of us gathered there. Yes, we should do this. Yes, we should discuss that. And then we got to the end of the planning, and one of the chief organizers stood up and said, 7 o'clock, that's the end of our workshops. 7 o'clock Saturday night. And boys, you know what happens then, right? Everyone yelled out, "Party!" Yeah! I kind of sunk in my seat like, wait a minute. Are these guys serious about changing society, or is it just, business as usual? But it got worse. That's right, boys, party! Now, I've got a special request for you, the organizer said. If 4 a.m. comes around and you have failed, you have not made it to a motel room with one of our visiting ladies, then be humble. Come on back and clean up the party room. Oh my God. This is what it's all about. What is the use? I'm out of here. And that's when I started thinking, higher consciousness is the solution. I started thinking, perhaps we're in a diseased state of consciousness. So how can we enjoy then without curing that disease? And indeed, I started to understand how the illusion, the mirage that we're living in, disrupts the traditional condition of human happiness. It's not giving human beings the necessary support and inspiration to go to a higher level. And so people are just trapped on such lower levels. So now looking back, I can understand why the guys would say like that. They didn't know any better. Yeah, hey, this is what's on offer. Yeah. We discuss politics and economics during the day, and at night, that's what it's all about. What else is there to do? But I wanted to find out something else. One thing that the yogis can explain to us is that we need knowledge about how the flow of material happiness dries up. First of all, the very nature of the stuff is problematic. It disappears so quickly. It promises more than it ever delivers. And number two, our very senses, the instruments for perceiving and grappling, these are limited, and they distort our experiences. So the stuff we're trying to experience is problematic, and then our senses, our tools are also problematic. Yet still we want to work hard for material satisfaction. Where is there genuine beauty? Where is there genuine love? Where is there genuine pleasure? That is what this human form of life is meant for. But we've been pushed into completely another direction. And therefore, our so-called happiness is so dependent on external circumstances. And that leaves us in a very weak, vulnerable position. We deserve better, and we can have better. Otherwise, what is handed you? What are you being sold on? So we talked about how supposedly the test of true enjoyment is the remembrance that it leaves behind. Here's some other mantras like that. And please be sympathetic. What do you expect if you don't have any advanced non-material knowledge? You're going to think like this. Our thoughts, our words, our deeds will live on as memories in others. Is that a consolation for you? Another one, live to become a memory. How do you feel about that? Live to become a memory. Still another, death steals everything except our stories. Are you going to be satisfied with that? So the Bhakti Yoga texts are pushing you. Go higher. Don't be bought off by this. I've left behind some memories. I have no idea what life is about or where I'm going, but I've left behind memories. You deserve much better. And your human species deserves much better. Many of you are aware of how, and this is BC, before Corona, beyond lifting you out of poverty and getting you to a very basic middle-class standard of living, any increase in income doesn't change your happiness. Of course, the present circumstances have decimated so many persons. But if we're looking for when the normal will return, that normal wasn't satisfying. What to speak of the new normal? Some of you have heard me explain before. I don't know if any of you have ever purchased lottery tickets. Did you know if you win the lottery, there's a lottery in California? If you win, your lift that you get, let's say you won for $200 million, it happens. Your lift psychologists and behavioral economists have calculated your lift lasts for 18 months before you drop back down in your average everyday happiness to your old level. Can you imagine? You won $200 million. I read about someone in Minnesota who won the state lottery for $200 million in April, and then 2 months later, defying all mathematical odds, he won it again for another 200 million. The mathematicians at the university they were all just calculating, this is freak. It's freak for someone to win once, but twice in a few months. So let's say you manage to pull off that kind of freakish event in the universe. Your buzz, your lift is for 18 months on an average before your everyday happiness drops back down to its usual level. So what's going on here? Now, some social scientists have calculated that if you had a gauge called a happyometer, and the gauge was infallible, it's a meter, a gauge that you could just go up to someone and it shows you how happy they are. So if you had this happyometer and you toured both Orange County and Calcutta, it is not at all clear that you would get consistently higher readings in Orange County instead of Calcutta, the streets of Calcutta. So that should make us think, what is going on here in terms of happiness? We can use the present circumstances to go in a higher direction in terms of knowledge and lifestyle. There's something else that life is meant for. And so, in spite of the ashes of all the burnt opportunities that are prevalent everywhere now, it's like here I am speaking from New Zealand. All right, you say, we've heard they've wiped out, they think, COVID-19. But they also shut down their economy. So it's 4 million people in the country, and they normally would get 4 million tourists a year. But the borders are all closed. So the new normal is, hey guys, where's the money gonna come from? There are no tourists around. What to do in circumstances like that? Let them push us, let those circumstances push us to establish our life on a higher level. That will be success. And then, because we're cultivating internal wealth, we can handle any situation. It's very painful to be just dependent on temporary ups, temporary happiness. Very painful, very risky, very precarious. We deserve better. So this is why we stress the Hare Krishna mantra. It is the sound vibration tool that allows you to actually experience real wealth, the inner wealth. And this is why we emphasize the Bhakti Yoga knowledge. Unless we can connect with something that's unlimitedly, infinitely attractive, we won't give up the illusion, we won't give up the mirage, even though we have some intuition that it's all an illusion, it's all a mirage. Still, we won't let go because we have to have something. So what's the best thing to have? Now is the time to start shaping our lifestyle for that. So how am I going to take some questions here? Where is Hari Bhakta?
I think everyone should just, if they have a question, they can just turn on their mic and ask the question.
Okay.
I have a question. Hello?
Yes, I see you.
Hi. I'm just curious what your opinion is on romantic love. Just because I think like romantic love isn't like you give it up to be a monk. Yes. I'm just curious.
Yes and no, and I'll explain that, but go on.
I'm just curious, like, what you think about it, because you were talking about, like, the up and down waves of, like, happiness, and, like, how does that connect with love, and what is your advice to, like, thinking about it?
Well, let me ask you, what do you think about it?
I don't know. I guess I am still developing my opinion, but
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good answer. That's the best one I've heard.
I think it can be a beautiful thing, but also a very painful thing. And I just wonder if there's a way to experience it without feeling the pain. I don't know. I mean, pain is, I don't know. Yeah.
How to get the honey without getting stung.
Well said, yes.
Reminds you of a popular song back in the 60s. Love is a hurting thing. For every little kiss, there's a teardrop. For every embrace, there's a heartache. So you asked me that I, as a monk, I've given up romantic love. Since you asked me personally, I have to say that I was looking for the love supreme. Ever since I was 16 years old, I heard a very legendary jazz recording by legendary jazz musician John Coltrane, and the recording was called The Love Supreme. And he was saying that you should look for the ultimate supreme love. And I thought, yeah, that's right. And so that was one of my quests. The other one, besides wanting to solve all the world's problems, I wanted to find that love supreme. And so what the jazz musician was stating point blank as the most popular jazz musician of his time, that love of God is the ultimate goal of life, the love supreme. I said, wow, the foremost musician is saying that. I got to check this out. So I would not say that my life is free from romance. I just want the supreme romance. That's all. Now, some facts. Maybe some of you have heard me say this before. There's a very famous anthropologist, Helen Fisher, and she has taken in data from all over the world to establish the worldwide average for the duration of romantic feelings. What do you think? Gotcha. Oh, you're all ears now, right?
Person, I don't know.
Okay, global average means some more, some less, but here's the average. When you're flying, how long does that phase last? There were bells in the air, but you never heard them ringing until there was you. There were birds in the air, but you never heard them singing until there was you. Darling, forever. just to be with you. Thrills me through and through.
Maybe like 3 months or 4 months.
17 months. That's the average. Now in Bhakti Yoga, do we have couples? Certainly we do. But they're more like partners in enlightenment. They're not basing their whole togetherness on psychological and physiological stuff that disappears very quickly. They're fellow travelers on the spiritual quest, the spiritual journey. They know that the buzz fades in terms of the body and mind. And in fact, for their relationship to stay together, especially in this day and age of constant breaking up, divorce, separation, they know to go the distance in their relationship, they need something higher that binds them. So I recommend the love supreme, certainly, and then you find someone who shares that highest spiritual aspiration and work together for achieving that highest goal, rather than just milk each other for some temporary sensations and buzzes and, hey, anyway, you're filling a gap in my life, so I guess that's as much as I can expect, you know? So what I'm saying is not pessimistic, it's optimistic in the best sense. Very good question, thank you. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yes, any others?
Yeah. First, thank you, Maharaj, for this amazing talk. I would like to ask, as someone who's new on the spiritual path, if you had any advice to how you can increase your faith when you're coming from a very materialistic upbringing without much spirituality. How can you increase that faith when it's something that you haven't really practiced before?
Well, I tell you, the word, as you use it, faith, makes me a little nervous. It sounds a bit too religious, kind of beliefy for me, you know? All you got to do is believe. So often when I'm speaking at universities, I point out that nowhere in Bhagavad Gita, the prime Bhakti Yoga text, does Krishna ask you to believe. Everywhere he says, here's the process. Apply yourself to it. These are the results you'll get. So please think about that. Enter the Bhakti laboratory. Follow the knowledge, apply yourself, and you'll get the results. Now you might say, well, then why doesn't everyone do it? Not everyone wants that. Just like at any university, there are the students who are slackers, there are students who are so-so, and then there are the high achievers. Of course, there are those who never go to school at all. So similarly in the world of bhakti, it's like that. So it's not about, I've got to work myself up into some kind of frenzy of faith and belief. Do I believe? Do I believe? I believe, I believe. No, it's not like that. It's about changing your lifestyle so that your experiences change. And the more you change your lifestyle, the more experience you'll get, and therefore the more conviction you'll have. Because you're not, let's be honest, you're not going to give up the lower so-called pleasures until you get something much better. It's just not going to happen. And mere religious belief is nice, but it will not sustain you. You've got to have non-material experience of non-material satisfaction. So now is the time, in these circumstances of the new normal, now is the time to think how to go deeper. And you could design for yourself the greatest inner prosperity, even in these pressing circumstances. Very good question again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So speaking of the process, following the process and getting the result, such a big part of the process is to come together as a group and chant together. And so how do we fulfill, so my excuse now is like, oh, well, we can't all come together, so I'm going to take a break, like how do we meet that need when we are all isolated?
Think about what you can develop in yourself for the benefit of others. Let's not be selfish. Okay, we have to be isolated these days, but let me use this time to focus and develop my spiritual strength so that when I do come together with others, I'll be able to make an even greater contribution. Let's think of the world. Let's not be so insular, like it's all about me and mine. And the Bhakti Yogi wants to benefit all living entities. Just like, for example, right now, even in mainstream media, people are starting to question the whole meat-based American diet. Like, hey guys, the COVID-19 is a zoonotic disease. It's jumped from animals. This is being discussed even by the mainstream media, that maybe we've got to do something about the meat diet. Maybe our lifestyle has been one of faulty connection to animals, invading their habitats, having live animal markets, factory farming. One senator from the USA, from New Jersey, was a presidential candidate. He has a bill for gradually phasing out factory farming because of the relation between disease and animals. The technical term, as I said, is zoonotic diseases. They jump from animals to human beings in a way that generally didn't happen before, because there was not such factory farming. There was not such deforestation. But we penetrated deep into the animal's dimension, so to speak, by our diet, by our farming methods, by our tearing down forests. And so you could say that the animals are having revenge right now. So these are things that the Bhakti Yoga practitioners see and they can make a difference. You could say, well, it's about time people started questioning their lifestyle, especially their diet. But things often move slowly, and then suddenly there's a big realization. Just like when the Berlin Wall came down, even the CIA admits they were caught by surprise. They didn't expect everything to unravel that quickly. So we keep trying to give the knowledge and demonstrating the lifestyle. And you don't know when critical mass is going to be achieved and how it's going to be achieved. In any case, you're doing the best thing for yourself, and you're becoming qualified to give the best thing to others. So use these present circumstances to surcharge your spiritual batteries so you can actually make a change in this world, because people are becoming more and more desperate. Those of you who have a daily Maha Mantra meditation practice, you're insulated according to the intensity of your practice. You're insulated from all the doubt and insecurity and paranoia and anger that's going on today. What about my future? What am I going to do? Who's in charge? Who's running this show? Well, people are getting angry. And they don't know how to live simply. Oh my God, the liquor shops, are they open? Where's the sports? Oh, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, come on, my mind's going crazy. You all are obviously not the ordinary persons, so you don't think to such extremes, but with compassion, just think of those who know they don't know anything better. What am I gonna do? I can't go anywhere. Like I'm born in New York. So many New Yorkers are saying, what's the point of being in this city? Where's the nightlife? That's the big thing in New York. I used to love it. The city that never sleeps. Now people are thinking, I gotta get the hell out of here. So let's think of others. How can we give the best gift to others? Let's work on our own consciousness so that we can be of the best benefit to the world. Because Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is giving you instructions how to benefit all living entities. So please think about that.
There's a question on the group chat that says, how do you release the fears that is holding you back from your dharma, performing your duty?
A lot of the fear is due to social conditioning. If you march to a different drummer, what's your life going to turn out to be? Please understand that Bhakti Yoga is not simply for the monks. Why did I become a monk, a Swami? To be honest, I wanted to specialize in the highest pleasure. Just like, for example, those of you who are university students, you're not all going to be professors. Like, for example, David Darshan's good wife. You're not all going to do that. You'll take your education and apply it in your own way, or whatever way circumstances allow you to apply it. But you're not going to become professors. But I wanted to devote my life to knowledge of the highest pleasure and how to give the greatest benefit to the world. I wanted to specialize in that. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But we don't expect everyone who takes up Bhakti Yoga to want to be a professor of Bhakti Yoga. Most persons who go to university don't wind up being professors. But you need some professors, right? So if I had my own family, my own biological family, I couldn't have done all the traveling to dangerous places that I've done. I have an opportunity to make the whole world my family. On every continent, I know such wonderful persons. And most of those Bhakti Yoga practitioners are family persons. So please understand that. I'm really missing the mantra house questions. These are wonderful questions you're all asking. Makes me want, as soon as possible, to be there with you all. I've just got to wait for all these travel restrictions to calm down, if they do calm down this year. For example, I'm in New Zealand, but if I wanted to fly out of Australia, we call that across the ditch. It's a 3.5 hour, 4 hour flight, but we say across the ditch, so we don't feel so lonely down near the South Pole. So if I wanted to fly out of Australia, I'd have to apply to the federal government for permission. That's how tight things are. And there's no question of anyone who's not a citizen getting in. You won't, it's just not going to happen. So all these travel restrictions are depriving me of your association. But I look forward to, whenever it's possible, to returning to the mantra house. It's one of my favorite places. And yes, I talk about the California dream. I know all about it. But I also know there's so many are rising above it. Any last questions?
I have a question. So usually before I joined the meditation club and started learning more about the beliefs of this religion, usually with the idea of karma, I'd always hear it as like kind of a universal form of revenge. But with what I've been kind of hearing, that's not exactly what it is, I would say. And I was wondering if you could talk more about it.
That's an interesting one, a universal system of revenge. Okay, you did this, now you're going to get smashed for that. How about justice on a cosmic scale? You get your true desserts. How about that? As the Bible says, you reap what you sow. Every action has a reaction. So the intelligent person is thinking, how can I live so I don't get any reactions? That's Bhagavad Gita's specialty. Karma-free activity. How to act without any material reactions. Only then can you actually know what true satisfaction is. Because if all your satisfaction is karmic, and time is bringing you your karma, your so-called satisfaction comes and goes so quickly because it's on the material platform. Let me give you another example. Suppose you're in prison. What would you want? Solitary confinement or a prison cell with TV, air conditioner, all kinds of perks? Which one would you want? What do you say, Brendan?
What were the two options? Like
solitary confinement or the kind of prison cell that politicians in second and third world countries get when they get caught taking too much money. They just kind of get a luxurious prison cell. Which one would you go for?
I mean, I should go for solitary confinement because it'd give me more, I guess, time to work on myself. But currently, I guess I would probably choose distractions. So the TV and stuff.
Well, you obviously don't know much about solitary confinement in the USA. You definitely don't want that. But your real choice should be, I don't want either. I want to get out of prison. That's what Krishna is offering you in Bhagavad Gita. Don't go for the first-class prison cell. Don't go for the third-class prison cell. Get out of prison. What do you think? Okay. Another example I often give is about handcuffs. I don't think any of you have been handcuffed, I hope. If you have gold handcuffs encrusted with diamonds that have cuffed you, should you feel superior and better to someone who is cuffed with plastic handcuffs? But that's what it's like when we become proud and content by our having nice material circumstances. Oh, my handcuffs are gold encrusted with diamonds. Oh, I feel so sorry for the unfortunate persons who are handcuffed with only plastic handcuffs. No, you want to be free. Good karma means gold handcuffs. And then there's the tough karma, the cheap handcuffs. But both sets of handcuffs bind you. I've only been handcuffed once in my life, I'll confess to you. It's by my father. He was an administrator in the New York Police Department, and I was 5 years old. And he was playing around with me, and I was happy. Daddy's playing with me. So he said, okay, you're the crook. I'm the cop. I caught you. I was laughing. He said, now I'm going to handcuff you to the door. So he pulled out his handcuffs, and he handcuffed me to the doorknob. One cuff on the wrist, one cuff on the doorknob. So as a little kid, I was enjoying it for about 3 minutes. Okay, Daddy, let me go. I want to go watch cartoons on television. And where's the key? He started reaching in all his pockets and looking here and there. Where's the key? Where's the key? My son is handcuffed to the doorknob. Oh no, I can't find the key to the cuffs. He's going to be psychologically damaged. Oh no, it's all going to be my fault. And he was freaking out like anything. And of course, I was like starting to cry. Daddy, Daddy, let me free. I want to watch cartoons. Let me free. Let me free. So he looked for a half hour and couldn't find the key. And he knew that very soon my mother was going to come home. She was a nurse in the hospital. And you know what that would have happened? He would have never heard the end of it. So he had to do the most embarrassing thing. He had to call the local police station and explain to them what happened. I could see him on the phone. He was so embarrassed. This is Lieutenant so-and-so. I have a very unique situation here. I have handcuffed my son to a doorknob and I can't find the key. You can imagine the reaction on the other end of the police station. You what? So anyway, they sent around a squad car. Took about 10 minutes and with a duplicate key, and then I was released. So that's the only way I know how it feels like to be handcuffed. My point in the handcuff example is about karma. The intelligent person is thinking how to have a karma-free life, how to go beyond actions and reactions. And that's what bhakti is all about in the beginning stage. And then bhakti goes much deeper into the love supreme, the supreme unlimited source of attractiveness. The knowledge of Krishna and Krishna's pleasure. All right, Brenda? Okay, Hari Bhakta, how are we doing for time?
If anybody has any last questions, I think they can just go for it.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question is, how can we unlearn our social conditioning and the anxiety that it brings? Because intellectual, like knowing it intellectually is one thing, but then embodying that is a whole different ordeal. So yeah, that's my question.
Very good, Ashish. The, the, the requirement is lifestyle management. We've got to overhaul our lifestyle. We're not religious believers. I think Brenda mentioned that, you know, okay, I'm getting into this religion. Oh, that scared me. It's about lifestyle engineering, how to shape your lifestyle so that you actually experience the non-material pleasure, the non-material reality. So please remember that. Knowledge and the application of the knowledge is required. And then you'll get experience which will lead to real conviction. Maybe some of you, for example, are studying at the university science, biology, or physics, and you've had the opportunity to look in a high-powered microscope at some biological specimen, or even high-powered telescope and looked at the sky. Unless you have knowledge, you won't know what you're looking at. This shows how limited our senses are. We need our sense perception to be informed by knowledge. So that's what Bhagavad Gita does. It changes your vision by teaching you what you're looking at. Do you see your change of body? Do you see time, the flow of time? Do you see energy and its relation to the source of all energy? That's the Bhakti Yoga experience. The body is always changing. Can you see what your future existence will be? You say, well, no, I don't see anything once the body drops. That's because we're not seeing through knowledge. Our eyes have to be trained. Just like someone looking in a microscope at biological stuff. Unless the professor teaches you what's right there in front of your eyes, you don't know. There have been actual surveys done of college students and microscopes demonstrating this point, that something is right before your eyes and you've got the advantage of the best technology looking at some specimen, but you don't have a clue what you're looking at unless first the knowledge comes into your ear and then taught by the guru, the professor. Oh, okay, that's what I'm seeing. Oh, and then you start to act based on that knowledge and you get results. Okay, Ashish? Thank you.
If there's time, I also have a question. I was wondering, in the yoga philosophy, we learned that the soul goes through many bodies and carries the karmas, the good and bad karmas, and the good and bad karmas and spiritual karmas through all of its bodies. And so sometimes in like our current body, we may go through something and it might be like a reaction to a bad karma that we've done in a previous life. So what is the salvation or the narrative that we could have that could help us get through the difficult times, knowing that it's something that we did in another life and we don't remember it and we're not, we don't feel responsible for that thing, but we're maybe have to go through the repercussions of it now. So like what's a helpful narrative to have when going through something like that? I don't know if I made myself clear.
You take advantage of what Krishna says at the end of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, do things my way and I'll deal with all your past karma. Don't worry. Just like in Australia, whenever someone wants to assure you that there's no problem, everything is taken care of, they say, no worries, mate. So at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving you the no worries, mate offer. Do things my way, Krishna says. I'll take care of all the karmic reactions. You don't worry. Then you might say, well, why doesn't everyone take advantage of that offer? Not everyone cares. Karma? I don't see any karma. Do you see karma? Do what you like. Please yourself. So people are at different places in their cosmic journey. That's the reality. You're at a point in life where you're thinking about these things. So please become qualified to help others who are not thinking about those things. So finally, let's take advantage of the varying degrees of isolation to increase our spiritual potency so that we can actually make a difference in the world. Thank you very much.